So what we're looking at here today is typical Ozark Mountain public land. And I'm going to break down some of the things that I look for on this public land. There's basically there's a lot of things, but there's three main things that I look at when I'm looking at the map. I look for ditches, interior edges, and gaps. I'm going to go in a little bit of detail about each one of those, and I'm going to show you on the map here kind of what I would choose. I've never seen this before, so I'm just looking at the map and telling you what I would do in this situation. So looking at this map, you can see right here you've got deciduous and you've got conifers right here. So that's a change in tree type. I call that an interior edge, and a lot of times deer travel the edge of, say, pine and hardwood. They really like traveling those edges, and then in conjunction with that you have a little ditch right here that comes up, and they'll go around that ditch and they'll travel. This is just an example. They might travel right through here, and then over here you have a real big concentration of conifers, and a lot of times these deer like to bed there because it's real shady. It seems to be a little bit cooler, especially early season. They'll bed in these areas. You can see another spot right here that I marked. You got another ditch coming up, and I use these ditches because you can use thermals to your advantage with these ditches. So by using these thermals, you can hunt above or below a trail or whatever, morning, evening, and then catch deer, coming to feed on acorns and then going back to bed up in this area right here. I marked another spot right here. You can kind of see the trend. The spots that I'm marking, you've got pine or cedar right here, and then you have another big drainage system that comes up right there. And you notice right up here you have two small ditches that lead down into the big drainage, and they travel these. Sometimes if it's a U-shaped ditch, they'll travel right up the middle of it. It's a V-shape, real sharp. They'll travel the edges of it, and then they'll go around the outside edge where it comes to a head at the top of the holler. Another thing that I look for is gaps, and sometimes these gaps can be on the edge of a ditch, they can be on top of a ridge, and what I mean by a gap is you may have sawbriar, a band of sawbriars or a band of huckleberries running across the top of a ridge. It looks like there could be some of this stuff, coming out from these cedars or pines right here. And if there's an opening in, say, the huckleberries or the briar patch, those deer are going to take the least resistance. And a lot of times I'll set my stand up on these gaps, and you can catch these deer coming through these gaps. It just basically pinches them down like a saddle or something like that. And it's just a travel corridor that they use all the time. I've noticed in the past, especially in the mountains, in the Ozark country, deer do not have a specific bedding area per se. They're real sporadic in the way they bed, so that makes it a little bit more difficult to hunt between bedding and feeding. So they're bedding all over the place, but I do notice that they do bed in the steeper terrain. I mean, if you have any bluffs or real steep areas, they like to bed on those areas, and they'll always have an escape route though. So you want to look, say down here, I mean, if deer are bedding on the side of this ditch right here, you want to walk it out really good and try to figure out where their escape route is going to be, or where their outlet is going to be. When they get up out of their bed, they're going to travel in a certain direction, and you need to try to be in between where that bed is and where you think they're going to feed. And then when the rut comes around, they still use these same travel corridors, but it's going to be really sporadic. So you'll want to find little pinches, say like the gap or at the top of a ditch. You want to find places where it pinches it down, and when the doe comes through there, I'm pretty much strictly a bow hunter, so I'm setting up for close shots, and I want to set up to where I can have a really close shot, and like gaps in bluffs. There's a lot of bluffs in the Ozarks, and you can really use those to your advantage, is hunting those bluffs, because it pinches them down and they're going to cross from maybe one ridge to the next, and you can ambush them right there.